Hello there, chaps. I'm here deep in the woods, trying to make sense of things, wondering when everything became so complicated. That's what I've been thinking about for the last few days. I had a little conversation with a friend of mine from Twitter, with whom he and I have fairly regular chats now, actually, very comforting chats. We're all sort of mutual friends of each other. And I mentioned the fact that on these videos, I talk a lot about trusting yourself more. And of course, the reason that I'm talking about it a lot is because it's something that I need to do myself. Whatever I say on these videos, and you can take this as 100% guarantee, whatever I say on these videos, I'm always actively trying my level best to do myself. And sometimes I have days where I really succeed at believing in myself, getting the work done, feeling the sense of satisfaction and joy that comes from that. And I do, when I record these videos, I always watch them back and extract the clip that I do as a short on YouTube and also on my various other social media channels. And I do pay attention to what it is that I'm saying, because I want to have integrity. And I understand that there's a huge need for moral purity and perfect consistency. And I do remind myself, and I do say it out loud, that yeah, okay, but we're all human beings, and everything that goes with that can be a real headfuck to try and sort out. You know, that we're living in integrity every single day, and that we're following the plan perfectly, dotting every I and crossing every T. And of course, it's not easy. It's very difficult. And it's why anybody who's done anything of note and overcome serious struggles has always said, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because we see, this is going to sound like a really obvious thing to say, but we see discomfort as a bad thing. But to my mind, I think all of these things, whether it's discomfort or anger or feeling that you've been hard done by, these aren't the vehicles with which you're going to make your life better. They're signals to make your life better. And I do fundamentally believe that even if it's not great in number, that there are a handful of people out there in the world with whom we are meant to connect with. And I've talked about the two gentlemen that I'm friends with, whom I met on Twitter, that we actually really support each other. And the more that we just discuss openly the things that are troubling us, that we're not quite clear about, that we actually actively, talk about these things and share the load, thus lightening the load. But I have to be honest, I find it extraordinarily difficult to talk about what's ailing me without having to refer to other people and say, oh, I know that I'm not the only one going through this. It's really been highlighted to me since a very recent therapy session where my therapist did very directly ask me, Martin, are you deflecting? And you see how yes, I am. Definitely deflecting, definitely deferring attention away from me. But what I realise is that at various stages of my life, I've been really, really out there and bold and courageous and enthusiastic. And I think over time, the reason that for the last few years I've really desired solitude and peace and quiet is because the people that I chose to spend my time in company with were incredibly self-important people who behaved in an incredibly entitled and authoritarian way. And I hate to say it, but they were all quite destructive people. They weren't optimists. They really weren't optimistic. They were quite pessimistic, and negative people who were very, very whiny, who didn't actually realise the quite privileged and comfortable positions that they were all in to varying degrees, And eventually those relationships all fell off. And there was one in particular, a friend from university who I was friends with for the longest period following university, that my final words to him were, thing is, we haven't really got anything in common anymore. We have completely different worldviews. And I said a couple of other things that I can't actually remember now. But they all came to natural ends because, my life was going in one direction and their lives were going in very different ones. And when I think about them and think about my ex, all of these people, it's all been to my own detriment of sort of silencing myself more, censoring myself more, judging myself more. And I'm now in a period of really deep and serious introspection and inquiry of what it is that I really want to do and how I want to live, and learning to trust myself more. And this isn't a radical departure from what I've been talking about of wanting to help other men like me to break free, live the life of their dreams, have more self-confidence, have more trust in themselves, have more belief in themselves. Because that's still a fundamental motivator. And I know for myself that I will benefit from actually communing with the people whom I will help. You see, it's all feedback loops. But the most important thing for me is that I am practicing what I preach, and that I really do have my own self-confidence. And I realize it's going to be quite a long process in order to get to that point. But I know that when I do the handful of things that it's required to do to build my coaching business, I know that intrinsically that will give me more confidence, and it will get me out of the thought loops that I feel entangled in at the moment. The more action, the less doubt, the more proof that you have that you are capable. That feels like the next stage to me, frankly. And whatever terms that you give to looking back, you might call it nostalgia or reminiscence. I see a lot of people on Twitter sort of romanticizing the past and say, oh gosh, in the 1970s and the 1980s things were so much better. And you think, I was there, I was there in the 1980s, and my parents and my older relations, they were there in the 1970s when the power was going out here in the UK, when undertakers went on strike, and how we reached such rock bottom levels of socialism that we had to have basically a revolution and it was voting for a brand new prime minister, and people either love or hate Margaret Thatcher, but people were so desperate for things to be sorted out that we voted her in record numbers and experienced a wave of prosperity that frankly at the moment we could only dream about. But all of these things, reminiscence, nostalgia, romanticizing, they're all forms of procrastination, because we are in the position that we are in, and we have to find solutions from that point. Can't operate out of conditions that no longer exist. And so it can sometimes feel like what you want is such a long way away. But the reason that I talk about trust and why I know that I need to develop far more of it for myself is because anything outside of you is impermanent. There's nothing permanent or solid about anything outside of you. The only permanent thing in your life is you, and you have to develop yourself to a point where no matter what circumstances are, that you can deal with them, take advantage of them, and make your own life better and serve as an example for somebody who overcame their struggles. That's what I want to do, because I feel like I had such an uncertain and impermanent and fragile scenario growing up. And because of it, I'm a 44-year-old man who, I'm not going to lie, can't lie, I feel enormously emotionally dysregulated, and sometimes wonder where the fuck I am. I do. I really do question reality. Maybe it's why I was drawn to a philosophy degree. I think actually looking back, it was the perfect thing for me to do. And that I need to take some of the wisdom that I learned at the time and put that into effect again, because I knew it worked for me at the time, but that's where consistency comes in. What has worked, as techniques, as ways of living life for me, well, the likelihood is that those things will work again, because I've imbibed it. I'm actual living proof that those things worked, because it's gotten me to this point. But flexibility. We have to pivot at various stages of our lives. We have to abandon certain beliefs. We have to accept that whether we feel uncomfortable or frightened or afraid or scared of, making progress, well, we accept that as par for the course, and we act in a confident and bold way regardless. And once we've done the scary stuff, we realize actually, oh, okay, that was all right. So next step. And maybe I've lacked a sense of urgency about what I'm doing. Maybe I've lacked a sense of pace, of speed. I don't know, actually. And there's nothing wrong with saying that you don't know. Everybody seems to want to have an answer for everything, and they also demand that, it seems, they demand that everybody else has an answer for absolutely everything. Nah, I just think there are some things that we don't know and may never know, but it never ever has to actually stop you. So I'm in very much a watch this space kind of place, and I don't mind, actually, because I know that I can withstand what's coming. And I wish the same for you as well. I wish the same prosperity and power, self-belief and confidence in yourself. And I hope that over the coming months and years that we can help each other out. I think that's the most important thing. We have the technology to reach so many people now that we've never had the opportunity to do before. Let's use it for good. So please do like and subscribe and share to spread this very important message. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Ciao for now.